Okay, well, I'm a painter, and I went to school for graphic design, and I've had a business for 40 years in graphic design, and then about 30 years ago, I started studying with Tom Buechner. I don't know if you heard that name or not, but I'm not going into the history of him, but he was the director of the Brooklyn Museum, Corning Museum of Glass. He was the director there and actually started that. And he was one of the top 100 portrait painters in the country living in Corning. I studied with him for 10 years, painted with him twice a week. So that's really my painting education. And he studied in Germany, in England, and in France, and Italy, and we brought all that information. There's a lineage that I'm a part of that goes way, way back. Still life I love because I can set it up, I can visit it multiple times, and most times there's 6 sittings or so at each one. Each one's a couple hours each sitting. And I paint from life. I'd say 100% I paint from life as opposed from photographs. I don't go that route at all. I try to have everything reality. So you see a lot of taxidermy around here. It's not because I didn't kill anything. I would just buy these. I use them as models to paint from, as well as people. So the inspiration is like I'd like to find old things that people have abandoned and try to give them a new breath, a new light. You know, out of the nothingness, out of dark backgrounds, out of nothingness comes a thought, and then a thought turns into a narrative. So most of my paintings are not just of apples. The apples are telling you a story, or the taxidermy creatures are giving you some sort of information of story. There's the hawk and the canary right there. We painted that. And so the story, and this is an interesting thought I think that you might want to have, is that people say, so tell me the story. And what I will say first is, what's the painting say to you? Because when it's on the wall, it's no longer my painting. It's your painting and your interpretation of that painting. So if you respond negatively to that bird, I was just talking about the hawk and the canary, are you saying there's a couple ways of looking at it. One is the hawk is in control of that canary and not letting it fly away or it's going to kill it, or it's its friend and protecting it from the world. So what's the story, who are you, and what's the story you're saying about that? And you can do that with a lot of these paintings have a story that I have behind them, but some people have completely different interpretations, which that's the fun part. And then there's a conversation about how I see it, why they see it that way, what's it say about your own psychology and your own interests, your own values, and so forth. So, you know, that's kind of it. The Dutch masters are my heroes, like Rembrandt, Vermeer, Frans Hals, Rubens, no relation. He's a lot older than I. But the Dutch masters are my heroes, and Caravaggio is another one. And then some of the French, like Chardin. I love Chardin, who was a French portrait painter. French, he did everything, but he was more known for his still lifes. But the masters who I study, and contemporary-wise, there's a lot of artists that are just brilliant out there today. And Facebook and the music, it's easy to say humble. For the instructions, it's a 6-week class, and depends if someone's a beginner or someone's intermediate or more advanced. And frankly, in the beginning, I really wasn't going to do beginners, because what I like to do is to paint so people can be behind me and watch what I'm doing, because I learned the most that way by watching Tom Buechner, my master. And I would always position myself so I could see what he was doing, because I've learned more by watching than by listening. And I don't do a lot of talking. It's mostly a demonstration. There's a particular palette. I won't go through it all, but there's like there's titanium white, yellow ochre, alizarin crimson, which is a red, ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, cerulean blue, burnt sienna, Naples yellow, viridian red, deep red cadmium, light red cadmium, cadmium orange, cadmium yellow medium, cadmium light, raw umber, and burnt umber. And these are some of the earth tones, and these are the real bright colors that you'll see. Look in here. And we try to avoid, like this. None of these reds you see here. I don't know if the camera's picking up or not, but all these reds are reds. None of them are like white to make that red. It's just all color. That's why the different grades of, and I can mix the reds with a blue, which will make this nice dark shadowy area that you see here. And and part of the process is a 6-week class, but it's six weeks of layering. And so after the first week of painting, the painting will dry, and then I take what's called liquid. It's a medium that's here, that it's an overnight dry, but it also puts like a thin layer of medium. You can see kind of the sheen that it has, because I haven't started painting the next layer on here. So we paint on top of the sheen. Then there's a couple things that happen with it that are really, really nice. One is it's a layer, so that if I'm painting today and I go, I screwed that up, I can really wipe it off, and what's underneath will not be affected whatsoever, which is really, really nice. Also, if you think about paint, a piece of glass, paint, piece of glass, paint, piece of glass, for 6 layers, what happens is the colors start to build up stronger and stronger. So the first day, this red wasn't that strong. This is, I think, 4 sittings. There's 2 sittings left. But it was dull, and the background was dull. And so you keep on building more and more layers to build up the strength. So the process allows, I mean, he never painted before in his life, this guy over here. So he didn't know what he was going to end up with, but that's not bad for 4 weeks never painting before in your life. Never picked up a brush before in his life. So point being that I can teach anybody that how to paint. Painting well is part of the gut, you know, it's part of the soul of it all. And you know, I was back to the beginning classes. What I came to justify within myself and feel good about is that if I can kindle the flame of someone who's never painted or never did any art before, the flame that burns inside of me that's been going on longer than you've been alive, or your parents probably been alive as well. But I mean, it's something that's been with me since I was 17 years old. I had this hunger to want to be a commercial artist, graphic designer, illustrator, painter, instructor, all the way up the line till today. So I feel good about getting people excited about painting, and those who are intermediate and want to grow. That's fun because I can see where they are, and I can help take them forward. They have goals, I have goals for them as well. So, and I provide brushes. I provide everything, by the way. I provide the board, the paint, the brushes, the mediums, the cleanups. I'll just say it's also a great deal of fun. We always have music, and I usually ask the class what they like. I tend to like blues, just something to kind of fill the air and keep some rhythm going and some energy going. And we get near the end of a painting, like a 6th week, it's very delicate. I'll go to sometimes classical music, very like violin and very soft to kind of slow the whole body down and your whole metabolism down. So instead of doing this, you know, you're more careful, and you might come in and, you know, do one little line, one little spot of color.